Morality in popular media is often relegated to the dichotomy between good guy and bad guy. Good guy fights the bad guy, and the good guy usually wins, if it's a good movie. And most of the time they win. Not quite like real life, because in real life we have this thing called morality that's a little more complicated than Thanos in the Avengers. In most situations, you're going to get yourself into this kind of moral gray area. There's no right or wrong answer, just the answer you made. It doesn't matter if it was objectively a good answer or objectively a bad answer, it was just your answer. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, a major theme that is morality is how complicated and gray it can be at times, portrayed beautifully by its central characters and the situations they find themselves in. The first thing to consider when looking into morality in Hamlet is who are our heroes and villains, or more specifically, lack therefore of. There aren't heroes or villains per se in Hamlet. Ironically, only people that are trying to not be killed by Hamlet. Chief among those is Claudius, who, if anyone deserved to be killed by Hamlet, it was definitely him. But that still doesn't make him inherently a villain. To give a better idea of this, let's use an analogy. Say if in Endgame, we have a scene where the Avengers find Thanos praying to whatever god asking for forgiveness, and then the Avengers just kind of sit there and wait for him to be ready to be murdered for eternal damnation. A little harsh, but that's exactly what Hamlet does. And Hamlet has zero reservations about making sure his uncle is sent straight to hell. So you can see how Claudius, despite what Hamlet might make you want to think, isn't some mustache-twirling supervillain bent on world domination or just murdering Hamlet. He regrets killing his brother, or at least it seems like it, and he's at least asking for forgiveness to God, something Hamlet will not give him. But this scene is important for a different reason other than Claudius, and it brings me to my next point. Hamlet is by far the most complex character in the play. He has no shortage of doubt in his plot to kill his uncle. In fact, I would argue that Hamlet had plenty of reason to kill his uncle way prior to when he knew that he had killed his father. There's simple reasons: power grabbing, it would nice to be king, or the fact that he married his mother after his father had passed. Then there's small stuff like scenes where Claudius had told Hamlet to just stop being sad about his father's death, knowing full well that his uncle had taken complete advantage of that situation. And considering that within the context of the play, pretty much no one has a problem with murder, it seems to me that I don't think there would be huge logistical reasons for Hamlet to just not kill his uncle. Now, I have to choose my words wisely here, but Hamlet never directly kills anyone in the play who doesn't provoke him first. Now, he does accidentally kill Polonius and Laertes. What are you gonna do? And to me, he definitely drives Ophelia to suicide. But looking at the whole play, Hamlet actually only purposely kills twice. Once his college friends, and at the end of the play, Claudius, obviously. Now, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern die only after Hamlet has found out that they are in cahoots with Claudius, and are plotting to kill him. And while Hamlet doesn't draw a sword or draw any blood, he does directly lead to their death, and it's pretty much murder. Now, you can argue here that these two didn't need to die. There are ways Hamlet could have gotten out of this situation and not killed them. But you can't blame anyone for saying that Hamlet has very valid reasons to kill both of them. Finally. And after a 3-hour play where Claudius has confessed in front of Hamlet, Hamlet's father has risen from the grave quite literally to tell Hamlet to kill Claudius, and Claudius has now killed Hamlet's mother and is about to kill him. Hamlet finally realizes it might be time to kill Claudius, and that's what happens. And that's it. That's the play. The royal family dying to me is symbolic of how there were no heroes or villains here. If there were heroes, then someone would have lived to be the hero. Horatio does live, but only really to relay the message that the Prince of Denmark is to become the new king. And in a lot of interpretations, it's suggested that, well, Horatio still dies. And finally, it wouldn't be a persuasive speech without a counter-argument. And truthfully, this does kind of fall apart when you consider that Hamlet's just insane for the entire play, and many of the events just happen in his head are delusions of grandeur. And there's a lot of merit into this. Stuff like how his two college friends are the only other people to see the ghost of his father, how his mother can't see the ghost of his father, how the two other people who saw the ghost are dead at the end of the play and only have one meaningful interaction with another character, which results in them dying. It all comes together quite nicely if you just kind of think of it that way. And then there's stuff like Horatio could straight up just be a figment of his imagination, him being the supportive friend who only ever doubts him after he commits double homicide seems a little excessive, and stuff like just basically seeing a confession right out of Claudius in front of his eyes seems almost a little too convenient at times. And you can chalk it down to just storytelling at times, but a lot of this stuff does add up to make you think that maybe the whole thing is not quite in his head, but maybe fabricated and fantasized all in his head. Of course, a big proprietor to this statement is that Hamlet is very clearly going crazy in the play, right? I mean, how he goes mad and treats Ophelia that way, and going crazy mulling over if he should kill Claudius or not. But I have a counterpoint that Hamlet doesn't actually go crazy in this play. In fact, I propose the opposite. He's actually the most sane character in this play. Throughout the entire play, we see basically murder normalized for a lot of these characters. It's just kind of an occurrence to them, and it doesn't really hold any weight. As to Hamlet mulls over a 3-hour play whether or not he should kill his uncle that killed his father sleeping with his mother. It's all a little surreal to think that he is made out to be the crazy person in all of this. So in that regard, maybe he's not crazy at all, and maybe it isn't all just in his head. Maybe he did see a ghost, and his mother just can't see that ghost. Maybe his friends do exist, and he actually did kill them. Maybe everything in the play is just very literal, and all these things happen. Nothing's a metaphor for anything. But it's undoubtable that there are deeper meanings to this story. And that leads us into the conclusion. So, in conclusion, Hamlet is a play about morality. It's not about good versus evil, it's about people. Complex human beings that have emotions and make mistakes, have vices and sin and blessings, all that. Because in reality, no one is perfect, and every decision we make isn't objectively right or objectively wrong. You see stuff like people asking for forgiveness, asking for retribution, and debating and making difficult decisions for themselves. It all ties back and proves that morality isn't black and white, and it certainly isn't in Hamlet. Alright, past the speech. This isn't at all related to the speech, but just thanks Miss Bonebreak for the opportunity to do stuff like this. If this came out how I wanted it with stupid jump cuts and silly Eric Andre sound effects, then I had a lot of fun with this project, and I hope to do stuff like this in college. I appreciate your class. Thank you for taking the time to look at my stupid videos, and I appreciate you. Thank you. Also, please give me an A.